Hello and welcome to Almost 30 Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Lindsey and Krista coming to you from New York and LA.
Mm-hmm.
Good to have you, as
Good
always.
to have you. I sat front row at a comedy show and got roasted, toasted, blasted. And this lady was like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I have a podcast." And she's like, "Okay, what's it about?" And I was like, "Spirituality and wellness." She's like, "You didn't say that, super spiritual." I'm like, "Okay." But then she's like, "What's it called?" And I was like, "It's called Almost 30." She's like, "I'm going to do Almost 32." And I'm like, and then she's like, "I'm actually going to do Almost 40." And I'm like, "Lady, if you think I haven't heard that joke for 8 years of my life, I don't even know what we're doing here." She goes,
roasting the audience and doing like the audience bit is so risky.
so risky.
You know, you have to be so fucking good.
Mhm.
Like I've seen comedians like that
Crush.
is the best part of their set. And then others you're like, and okay, like that's not.
I was like, I had to like talk to my friend who I went with. I'm like, I need you to process with me because am I being sensitive? Or it wasn't like I cared that much, but I was also like, I don't think I'm a good person to roast because it's almost good for like the quirky, silly, like kind of funny. I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, this is what I do. I don't know.
You clearly have a mother wound.
Honestly, no, honestly. She was like, "Oh, do you study?" She's like, "Have you ever studied Kabbalah?" Or she's like, have you studied Kabbalah? What is it? And I was like, "It's like Jewish mysticism." And she's like, and then someone was like, someone yelled David Gam's name. And I was like, "Yeah, he's a friend." She's like, "I hate LA. He's a friend." And I'm like, "What do you want from?" And it was just so weird. But basically, that's what I wanted to say about Almost 30. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad you're here on the show. We have a solo episode today with Lindsey and I, which is some of my favorite conversations. And we're going to be talking about how to fight well, because when we're looking at having deep, intimate relationships with people, and we want to have deep, intimate friendships where we feel seen, heard, and valued, it's not just about navigating the good times. It's not just about the laughs or the LOLs. It's very much about working through conflict, and it's very much about how to fight well. And I don't think many of us have been taught how to fight well. I know for me in my life, I never was shown how to fight well. I didn't really know how to fight well probably until Lindsey came into my life. And now it's been just such a deep aspect of the relationships I have in my life, and having real, meaningful, sovereign relationships with people that are not codependent, that are true and that are honest and that are in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I think we both had kind of that lack of modeling in our childhood. And then I think we both also had different and interesting ways in which we would fight.
Oh,
and so when
what do you want to say about that?
Oh, no, I think I was just
Let's say
thinking about
yours
it.
and let's say mine.
So I think my usual flavor, it depends on the person. Some people
True.
like set me off or trigger me more than others, and I get like kind of reactive and rude.
That's true.
But most of the time I am more of like
The doormat.
I swallow it and I don't actually say what's true, and I don't actually say how I feel, and I don't actually engage in a quote unquote conflict, because for me, a lot of times it feels unsafe is the only word I can think of. And what I mean by that is I don't feel as though both people are conscious of what's actually happening. So I don't feel safe to actually share how I feel. So that's been my default, not really engaging in conflict.
Yeah, it's interesting that the two sides too, because I think a lot of people can relate to that, where it's like I'm either like a viper and I'm like so mad, or I'm a total doormat and I'm like holding back, not saying anything. I think my style might be the same. You know, I definitely had relationships with people where maybe it was more of a power dynamic thing, where I saw them as more powerful, or I saw them as more, I don't know, maybe I needed the attachment to them, or I needed that relationship or something, or I felt like I wasn't as good as they were. And then I would just give them the power and sort of go along with whatever they were saying. I can remember some conflicts for sure with people that essentially people in my life that scared me a little bit, were kind of pretty intense. And so when we would get into conflict, I would just completely do anything to keep the peace and to keep things okay.
Yeah.
What?
I was going to say, like, on that piece, it's like so dependent on the specific dynamic between you and the other person.
Yeah.
It's like I could be kind of like the powerful one, quote unquote,
Totally.
in a dynamic and like completely dominate in the fight.
Yeah.
Or
Mm-hmm.
or I could feel like this other person is so quick on their feet. They say like all the things that are just zingers and I can't even get a word in and I'm just going to fall back. So it's like, yeah, it's so dependent. And I think so much of, my work in this with my intimate relationships has been like not abandoning myself, even if my quote style of it is different than the other person's. Maybe I'm not gonna go do the barrage of like all the things I want to say, but maybe I hold my own in the energy and the embodiment of the moment, in the moment.
I mean, barrage is like abuse. Like, that's like, I was thinking about Love is Blind and Hannah and Nick, this couple on there. And honestly, watching it, I had to fast forward because it was almost abusive in the way that she would barrage him, in the way that she would just continue to go faster and faster and faster and say more and more and more. And when you're in a fight conflict situation, both of you are not always super regulated. So you need to give people time to process and think about what they're saying. And especially if you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, like you need to give someone time to process. So it's almost like the barrage for me feels like abuse. And I think the people that I've had in my life that are very like not very, that are very kind of quick in that way and sort of pointed and direct. And almost it makes me feel like I'm being cornered. It's not my favorite.
Completely.
It's not my favorite. And I can't say that, I think now I'm very good at these conversations. I can't say that I'm perfect. I think I had a conversation in the last year with a friend where I felt myself getting a little dysregulated because it felt like one of those conversations where nothing is being brought up and then everything is being brought up in the one conversation. And so you're feeling like, and I think a lot of men in my life have felt like this, where you bring up 100 things instead of just focusing on one. You did this, you did that, you did this, you aren't doing that. And then you feel completely overwhelmed and completely out of your own window of capacity. And I think when I felt outside of my window of capacity by hearing so many things that I had essentially done wrong, that really sent me off, because that's a part of me that feels like I'm never doing enough. And that never enoughness is like just so deep within me. But now that you and I have been able to have these conversations, other people in our lives, it's like so nice because it's not a thing as much anymore. You can kind of clear quickly in a way that feels really good. And I was even saying this the other day to someone. I was like, when you and I have these conversations, it's not like fun, but it's just, it never feels like bad. It's never scary, I think is the feeling. It's never scary. It's always open. And I wish that for all of my relationships. They're not all there, but I wish that for all of my relationships. And I don't know if it's our specific chemistry or dynamic that creates that, or if it's how we've learned it together. But it would be nice, I think, if we had our connection in the way that we can make it through conflict with more people in my life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, we've had so much practice, and I don't know if people have as much practice as we have had, because we have our friendship and we have our business partnership, and there's just so much complexity in that. And so we've been really kind of pushed into like these moments for the better, and I think the way you describe the feeling is so accurate. It's like you go into the argument or conversation knowing that you're not going to come out the other side feeling terrible or abandoned or that uneasy feeling in your stomach. It's just, that I know that I have confidence in the way in which we communicate and the way in which we listen to each other. And I think most of all, respect one another.
Yeah.
That I can go into the conversation knowing I'm going to leave feeling really, really good because every one of these has helped us to grow and grow closer.
Yeah, I love that. I think one thing that we do, and we probably talk about this in the episode too, that I was thinking about this recently, and I was talking to a friend about it, is like we come pretty baked and like, we come pretty processed, pretty understanding of what's mine, what am I bringing to the table, and we process a lot prior so that it's not messy, it's not heated, it's not like unintegrated in kind of what we're bringing. But what I'll say is that, I think so much of my life was avoiding these, was not having these types of conversations, was leaving relationships because maybe there was a conversation that needed to be had and I wasn't ready, I wasn't resourced, I wasn't able. And I know I've said it before, but I just really want to hit the point home that so many people feel lonely in life. So many people feel like they want to be seen. They want to be loved for who they are. They want to be accepted. They want to just connect with people. And this is like a part of that. This is such a huge part of that. It's not just about you being met in your bigness and your brightness and your shininess and your deepest expression and your grandiose expression. It's about me being met in your darkness and your fear. And when you're not well and when you're not perfect and when you're not all the things that we seek to be all the time. Like this is part of shadow work, is doing this kind of stuff in relationship and coming home to yourself and still loving yourself, even if you say the wrong thing. I've said wrong things to you in fights, and I don't know if you probably have to me, I'm not sure, but it's like, how can we love ourselves even when we're being imperfect in these things, and knowing that it's all practice. I think that's been helpful for me with us or anybody in my life. I'm like, each time I have these type of conversations, I'm like, this is good practice. It's good data. What's working? What's not? How can I do better? How can I be more loving? Like, what can I do in the future for this? And I swear, once you really like get the hang of it and like stay regulated in your body and not abandon yourself, it just becomes so much easier.
Yes. And your relationships just become kind of what they're meant to be for you, those deep, intimate relationships. Like you kind of understand what depth actually means rather than like, oh no, we're so close. We've been close forever and we know everything about each other. It's like,
Girl,
no, do you know one another in those moments that are super uncomfortable, that are really, really challenging? And can you love and respect both the other person and yourself through those moments? And like that, I think, and I honestly can count on my one hand, I think, like people in my life that I really trust to have that kind of relationship with.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, I also think it's an act of self-care to know the people in your life that are not capable of having these conversations and not forcing them into it, not, finagling them in it, and not almost not abusing yourself, but not honoring yourself in it. That there's a lot of people that don't have the capacity for these. I think you should give everyone the chance. And if you're a true master of communication, you're able to really hold even someone who's unconscious. But some people, not everyone's able to have this. And for me, and I think we talked about this before, not everyone in my life is deserving of this type of level of processing and energy. This is a lot of processing. It's a lot of energy. This takes our conversation that we're having, a lot of my mental workload to really fill out what's me, what's you, what's ours. And then it's therapy time too. It's like, these are like big things. So I think there's probably 5 people in my life that get deep, deep with this, but I do try and keep everyone in my life as clear as possible, where it's like, hey, this came up for me, like, that kind of clear, quick stuff with people I try and do with everyone. But yeah, the deep stuff happens with few.
Yeah, completely. I had, maybe it was a month ago now, but I had to have one of those hard conversations where I knew it was going to be a bit challenging. And I had been using the superhuman activations on the regular. And I was like, you know what? On my way to this conversation, I'm actually going to pop one in. And I did the de-stress en route to a big meeting one, which actually worked really well for this conversation because it's kind of the
Mhm.
similar type of anxiety of like, what if this doesn't work? What if I fail at this? Like, what if I can't show up and be myself? What if I can't, just stay in my body? So all of those things, it really, really helped me. So I actually did it as I was walking to this conversation because it was in person. But the activations on Superhuman app, just wanted to shout that out because, um, yeah, I feel like they've been just really, really powerful anchors to visualizing that future moment,
Mhm.
that future moment in that conversation, that future moment when I do reach that goal, that future moment of peace, of pleasure. And, at first I was a little skeptical, to be completely honest. I don't have all the time in the world or as much time as I used to. And so I was like, oh, should I, can I
Mhm.
incorporate these? Are they going to be powerful? And I just committed. I was like, I'm going to do at least one a day. And I've been doing two a day. And it's just really recalibrated, like where I hold my center on things. So
Mhm.
just wanted to shout that out. It's been super powerful. And I know you've done them for a long
Oh, I
time
do them
now
all the
and do them
time.
all the time.
I keep getting achievement badges from them. I'm like, this is so I just keep getting it's like,
That's
you've done
amazing.
400 activation. I'm just always doing them. And what I like about activations is that it's activating instead of meditating. So, especially when you are wanting to have a big conversation, I'm usually in a state of more mind and more wanting to figure it out and less wanting to be in a meditation and more wanting to be activated and kind of supported and shifting my mental state. I really love the one that they have. It's a quick one and it's called Expect the Best Case Scenario. And that's always helped me with hard conversations, just taking like 2 minutes and listening to like just a really powerful reframe. Cause it's almost like a mix of a motivational podcast. It has cinematic music and these guided visualizations. It's hard to put into words how cool they are, but when you guys get it, it's really going to show you. And it just is something that it's like if you want to earn more money, get your dream body, get clarity, feel regulated before a big talk, it's the perfect thing. It's going to help you reach your potential outcome so much faster. And since I've been integrating it into my routine, it's just been transformative. I start every day with the Lucky Girl affirmations. Today, I was also doing Get Clarity. I've done Align with Your Future Self quite a bit. I'll kind of peruse and do whatever. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I'll put on the sleep ones, which is like 8 hours of their activations, which is just incredible for your subconscious reprogramming. It's like all that you need. And they're really backed by self image psychology and the science of visualization. So they engage your RAS, which is your reticular activating system, helping your mind really filter in the positive things that align with your goals. So whether it's wealth, abundance, or that new body, it's really going to support you. So the more you listen, the more you start to embody the future you. And I see in my thoughts, I see in my beliefs and my actions really align with the more wealthy, like future self version. It's just my favorite.
So good. I can't wait for you guys to try it. So right now, you can get a 14-day free trial. So you can try it out and see if it's for you. So use our link. You can get our link activations.com/A30. And you're going to get over 60% off your yearly membership, which is pretty incredible. This deal is only available through this link, not the App Store. So go to activations.com/A30. And if you already have the monthly membership, so many of you do, we get DMs all the time about how you're loving the activations. You should really change to the yearly membership because it's so much cheaper. And you can use that link. So activations.com/A30. Take advantage of the free trial first. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. You are going to love it.
All right, guys, enjoy this one. Send it to friends, send it to those people you want to practice these conversations with. This is such a good one for your relationships and your life. And we're just so grateful to bring you this type of information and content. It means the most. We love you so deeply. Thank you for being with us on this journey of almost 30 throughout the years. You are the best, and we'll see you on the other side.
Bye. Ah, Okay, there's nothing better than just being freaking cozy. Am I right? I love like cozy sheets. I love a cozy pajama set. Cozy Earth is my go-to brand for both of these things and more. Why? Because their products are made from viscose from bamboo. They are just divines, the softest things I've ever touched. I just like remade our bed using my new sheet set from Cozy Earth. And my husband was like, "What are these? What did you do?" And I was like, "I got new sheets and you're going to love them." But it's very elevated, very luxurious, unparalleled comfort. I know you're going to love. It's going to feel like a little nighttime escape into your bed. And it's a great gift this holiday season as well. Plus, their women's stretch knit long sleeve bamboo pajama set. I am in love with. I have two of them because I just wear them nonstop. Also makes a great gift. Check out all of Cozy Earth's products. You're going to love them. And what's great is that we have a discount for your pretty huge one, actually. CozyEarth.com/almost30 and use our code almost30 to get 40% off. You're going to give the gift of luxury this season to others and yourself. I know this. With a 40% off discount code, come on. CozyEarth.com/almost30. The code is almost30. And if you get a survey after your purchase, just say that you heard about Cozy Earth from this podcast. It means the world. All right, wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Okay, y'all, I could not be more excited to share about this product with you. Krista and I got our Jasper air purification devices, y'all. Whew. First of all, they're chic. Second of all, they do the work. Okay, I was cooking the other day and all of a sudden my Jasper went off. It was like blinking red and it was scrubbing the air because cooking, I don't know if you know this, is one of the top pollutants in our homes these days. This incredible air purification system was designed by Mike Feldstein. He was on the podcast just a couple of days ago. You can check out that episode. Highly recommend. He's an expert in air quality and floor fire and mold restoration. Through his experience, he discovered that none of the conventional air purifiers on the market can make a meaningful dent on air quality. Like in disaster situations or even everyday life conditions, the only thing that worked was commercial grade air scrubbers, which are like very ugly. They're really loud. So he went on a mission and he wanted to create something that was chic and also very quiet. What's really cool is this air purification system eliminates and filters odors, chemicals, mold, volatile organic compounds, VOCs, bacteria, viruses, cooking particulate, pet dander. Krista, like her allergies have gotten exponentially better because of this air system. It has shown that more than 99% reduction in fine particle readings, so smoke, pollen, dust, in 20 minutes. It captures 99.97% of dust, allergens, and dander with its advanced HEPA filtration system. It has a 3-stage filter with air scrubber technology, an all-in-one pre-filter HEPA and carbon filter. It is phenomenal. Like, I cannot say this enough. The air is basically turned over every 5 to 6 minutes. Like, what? So, if you are someone who maybe has had mold in your house, maybe you are in a place where there are wildfires, maybe there's a lot of pollen where you are, maybe you're cooking all the time, maybe there's a lot of dust in your house. Maybe you have new furniture, could be off-gassing, y'all. We got to make sure the air is clean from those off-gases. Please consider getting this filter. It is one of the best investments ever. We talk about water filtration, we talk about getting clean food, but do we talk about our air quality? It is so important. We have a code for you. And right now, because it is like Black Friday time, the discount is insane. So the code is almost 30. You're going to go to jasper.co/almost30. That's JASPR.co/almost30. And you are going to get not $100 off. You're going to get $200 off. Plus, they have a Black Friday deal going on right now. So you're going to get about $400 off, which is insane. Okay? Take advantage now. This will not last long. please, please. And trust me, this is the greatest gift you can give your family this holiday season. Jasper.co/almost30, JASPR.co/almost30. The code is almost 30. Okay, I'm already planning some holiday outfits. And I want to have these pieces for a very long time. I am no longer in the business of buying things to just throw them out a few months later or a year later. Like, I want to have pieces that are staples in my wardrobe that I am wearing year after year, dressing up, dressing down, like never want to take it off type of thing. And Jenny Kane is a brand that I absolutely love. And I feel like is just allowing me to invest in pieces that are not only fashionable, comfortable, elevated, but also will last for a very long time. It is pure luxury, baby. All of their products are amazing. The quality is top notch, from their cashmere knits and essential outerwear to their homeware pieces like their obsession worthy candles. There's no better place to get into the seasonal spirit than at Jenny Kane. These make great gifts and also a great gift for yourself. I just wanted to shout out some pieces that I love. The cashmere Jackie sweater just landed and it's nothing short of incredible. I love it. You can button it up to wear it as like a turtleneck or unbuttoned for a fresh take on a classic crew neck. It's so cool. I love it. I dress it up, I dress it down. And if you're eyeing coats, I highly recommend the Theodore coat and the Apres coat. Both are a must for the season ahead, bringing added drama and ultimate coziness to your looks. I think you're going to love. They have shoes and accessories, tops, bottoms, sweaters. They have homeware that is just to die for. So I'm excited for you because you're going to get 15% off. Okay. Gift yourself and your loved ones the best gift of all, Jenny Kane. Our listeners get 15% off your first order when you use the code almost 30 at checkout. That's 15% off your first order at JENNIKAYNE.com. Promo code is almost 30. Let getting dressed be one less thing you have to worry about this season.
Hello and welcome to an Almost 30 podcast solo.
Hello, everybody. It's Lindsey and Krista, KNL Solos. Some of your faves. We're happy to be here.
We're happy to hang, and we're going to be talking about how to fight well. This is such a good one.
Took me a while.
I was actually reminiscing, and I was in a city that I used to live in recently, and there was a friend that I used to be really close with, and we just had a fight and we couldn't get over it, after. And I was like, gosh, it's just such a bummer because we didn't have the skills.
Back then or now?
Yeah, back then. It was like I was early 20s and I just did not have the skills to speak about how I was feeling, to understand how I was feeling, for us to navigate what we were going through, for us to it's a bummer because I'm like, oh, we'd still be friends. It's not like I care, but it's like we would still be friends if we had the skills to communicate and fight. And it really saves your relationships when you're able to fight well.
Completely. And I think so much of it, at least in my experience over the last few years, has been about how do I like regulate my own nervous system, my own emotions experience, so that I can actually show up and fight well. Because I think my issue in the past has been whether it's like being really reactive, and I'm not like a combative person,
At
but
all.
when I'm in that heightened emotional state, it's like the feeling is so big and it doesn't come out in a way that I'm like really proud of, whether I say something that's a little off, or I don't say what I really mean, or I can't find the words, or I'm crying, or I'm just like blood red mad and avoid the situation.
Oh my God, all of those things. I can think of situations and scenarios where I did all of them. That one time we were on a vape trip with people, I just cried the whole time because I didn't know how to, I literally was just bawling my eyes out. I didn't have words. And then when I've like fought back, when I've like gotten to the point where I like have yelled back, when I've avoided, when I've not had the words, when I thought of something later, like there's so many different things that can happen when you come to that heightened nervous system state. And whether you're fighting with friends, family, or romantic relationships, it's just such it's actually insane because afterwards you're like, I just remember being like, what happened?
Yeah, literally.
What happened to me? Like I'm yelling, I'm like, it's just the absolute worst of you can come out pretty much.
And I think so much, whether it's in our teens or 20s, like we're matching the other person. There's like kind of a weird matching going on, even if it's not your style of communication, whether it's like yelling and yelling back or silent treatment back. It's kind of I just remember not being able to kind of stand in my own and be the first to kind of like talk sense into the situation.
Yes. I used to have, it's funny, with men, I was normally like sassy, attitudey, like very much like my way or the highway. In Conscious Loving by Gay Hendricks, he talks about oftentimes when couples fight, it's a race to the victim position. And so basically a couple when they're fighting, they're basically fighting. And then it's like, whoever can be the biggest victim, you did the most bad things to me. You were the meanest to me. You hurt my feelings this much. That's why oftentimes people will pile on previous things because it makes them more of a victim. And I would always have in my relationships, like someone would cheat on me or something would happen. So I would always have that card to pull.
Right.
So I could always be the biggest victim, no matter what was happening, if I was wrong or if I was right. It's like if you've been cheated on or you've had something like that happen, you could always pull that victim card. So I would always be like pulling not always, like, I felt like I was pulling the victim card a lot so that I could always sort of get out of the situation or scenario. But in friendships, I felt like I was in more positions of less power where I would not know what to say. I wouldn't know how to communicate. I'd almost be like mute. I didn't really know how to speak. And so it's just very different, in sort of my style.
Yeah. There's like a paradox to fighting because you want to say clearly what you mean, but you also want to be able to say things imperfectly and it still be okay.
Yes, totally.
Especially with people that you are really close with, love and trust. Like, I don't want to have to edit myself in the moment necessarily, so long as I'm like as much as possible in my heart and like not throwing daggers and just fighting unfairly. But I want to be able to do that and not have to worry that it's going to be held against me later.
Yeah. I think that's, that desire. I think everyone wants the desires to be themselves in relationship, to say how they feel, to say what they mean. And it's almost like all the work that you do outside of fighting also contributes to you having like a clear mind and heart, so that if you are expressing imperfectly, it's still kind things. It's not, you know what I mean? Because when you're really in your shadow and when you're really in that reactive, like reptilian part of your brain, you are going to be saying things that probably are mean or cruel or whatever. But if you are meditating regularly, if you're practicing good spiritual and emotional self-care, then you could say things imperfectly, but it's not going to be things that would blow the whole relationship up. But back in the day, it was like you would say, call names or whatever. Like, the name. I don't know if I called names. I probably did. Oh yeah, I'd be like, let me give you one piece of advice. Don't call your man a pussy. How many men I called a pussy and how little do they enjoy that is
what would be equivalent for a woman? Bitch?
You're a bitch. Probably.
No, it's a little different.
No, there's something interesting and unique about pussy. That triggers a interesting part of their brain.
Well, it's like I think for a lot of men, it feels like the opposite of manly. It
exactly.
Feels like,
it's demasculating. It's like, it's rage. It just induces rage.
So you just used it willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly, but you're just a pussy.
She would whisper it.
I would just, I would just like look in their eyes and just be like, pussy. He'd be like, I got us bagels. I'd be like, pussy.
So we can share like a little bit about our experience with like bad fighting. Like, what did that look?
Yeah.
Just so people can kind of have an idea if they're, engaging in some fights and.
Yeah. So bad fighting, name calling. The most painful for me is the stonewalling. I experienced so much stonewalling. So it oftentimes experienced in narcissistic abuse relationships where basically there's no access to any communication or conversation with someone. Usually avoidance do it.
Okay.
So someone with an avoidant attachment style will usually use stonewalling. I would have this all the time happen at home. It's like you would do something and then you just are like, nope, there's no ability, opportunity to understand, to do better, to communicate and talk about it. So you feel incredibly alone. You feel very abandoned, especially for an anxious. So stonewalling, I often experience. I didn't do much of that, but mine was more just like the volatile emotions that I would feel, sort of like being set off. having emotions that were bigger than what I feel like I could handle. In female relationships, it was often very psychic of like something feels off and I don't feel comfortable and things are happening. You're changing, I'm changing. You've talked bad about, or like we don't
Yeah.
feel incredibly settled and comfortable and okay. So we just kind of live in that until there's like an explosion.
Yeah. Yeah. There's usually like a buildup. So it's
Yes.
like these little micro moments that build up to the actual fight or the actual blow up. And I had to kind of take responsibility for that, like in therapy a couple years ago, where I was not expressing in the moment whether something was bothering
Right.
me, whether it was my relationship with Sean or in friendships, like, and it was my own, yeah, it was my own, won't say fault, but it was my own like pattern
Mhm.
where I just wanted to keep things like chill,
Mhm.
smooth. Like I would doubt myself. I would doubt my own feeling about what this person did or how I felt about whatever in the dynamic. And I would doubt myself so much that I would talk myself out of saying anything.
For sure.
So,
Because it's also the codependency where you're like, well, then they're going to say this. Then it's
exactly.
going to create an awkward situation. Then we're going to be here. It's like, you're in that pattern when you're going a bunch of steps ahead of where you actually
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. The anxious attachment was like
Yeah.
on fire.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that healthy relationship, you should be able to, in the moment, be able to connect on something and not
Mhm.
have it be, end of world.
Yeah. So unhealthy fighting styles looks like stonewalling, looks like name calling, looks like you statements. So you did this, you did that, not taking responsibility for how you're feeling or what you're bringing into the scenario. It oftentimes is that aroused nervous system state. It could be throwing things, it could be having tantrums, it could be slamming doors, it could be using old things that happened in this fight. So if there's a situation that happened years ago,
Mhm.
you bring it into this fight and you keep bringing up the same things over and over again into fighting scenarios to really build your case of trying to win. It looks like you trying to win and someone else trying to lose. And it also looks like, yeah, a lack of like empathy for the other person.
Yeah.
It's really like you're in that protective state where you really want to protect yourself because you're in fear and you
Yeah.
have that aroused nervous system. So you for the most part, really want to be winning and you really want, and you don't have any empathy for the other person.
Mhm. And not listening. I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
in
a good
fighting,
one.
when the other person's not listening, it's so obvious and it's just, yeah, it's bound to go nowhere,
Hmm.
or it's bound to kind of blow up in a way that you didn't intend. So, um, yeah, that listening piece I think is really important.
And I think for the reason why we wanted to do this episode in particular was because having healthy conflict repair and being able to fight is like an essential part of having a full, rich life and having intimacy within relationships, whether it's familial, friend, or romantic. Like we, for the most part, most of us grew up thinking that if we were fighting or if we had conflict, that love would be taken away.
Mhm.
I even remember in high school feeling like thinking the thought of like if when I'm in conflict or when I'm fighting with my partner, I feel like they don't love me and I feel like
Mhm.
there's no more love there. And I've had to repattern and understand that sometimes conflict can be because there's so much love there, that someone cares for you, that someone wants to develop, someone wants to deepen, someone wants to, explore what's here. And really it means that the relationship is worthwhile because we've all had relationships where it's like not worth it. You're like, this
Right.
isn't worth it. Who cares? I'm not going to fight with this person about something. I'm not going to go into dialogue with this person about something. And then we've also had relationships where we've been able to navigate conflict repair and it's made you deeper and healthier and more honest and more true. And then for the most part, we've had relationships where it doesn't work, where we haven't been able to find a place of love, to find a place of peace, to find a place of contentment and compassion enough for each other to see
Mhm.
each other's side. So it really is an essential part of our human experience and key to developing meaningful relationships in your life.
Yeah, and I think it bleeds out to so many other things,
Yeah.
like learning how to fight, and whether it's, you could be someone who's building a business and there are going to be moments with strangers on your
Yeah.
path where it's not necessarily a fight, but there is kind of an energetic conflict. And
Yeah.
so if you can approach it in this heart-centered, fair, clear way, I just feel like most things flow from this place.
So true. It's actually a good point. It's almost like using strangers. I always think it's like, how can you build your window of tolerance to metabolize more conflict? So whether it's like a server that's rude, like the server that we had yesterday was so rude. It's like, kind of like holding your own, holding your center, staying peaceful, staying calm, trying to see their side, trying to see your side. It's like you can practice those in moments where there's not a high stake at all.
Or
and
a connection.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking about like, how's this person going to treat me next week?
Exactly.
So if it's someone you'll never see again, it's
Totally.
really good.
You can kind of like work on that.
What do you feel like influenced your fighting style? Because I think if you're looking at your fighting style, it's not something you just made up. It's something that we mentioned kind of what we saw when we were younger. I personally never saw resolution.
Yes,
So
that's
it
a
was
good
like
one.
conflict and then maybe it was resolved behind closed doors. But I think it's so important for parents especially to, if they're going to be disagreeing in front of their children, to resolve in front of their children, to see not the fullness of the conversation, but to see the hug at the end, to see kind of that resolution, because I never learned. Like, no wonder I wasn't able to really vision an ending to a fight. I always felt like it was the end, like the end of the relationship rather than the end of the conflict into something more beautiful in the relationship.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's almost like, think about us as kids, how unsafe that would feel to live your whole life like wondering if this is going to be the end for your parents.
Yeah.
And I think for most of us, we didn't see conflict resolution because for most of the relationships that I saw growing up of the parents, there wasn't any resolution. It was just a consistent nag,
Low
fight,
level nag,
low grade annoyance that never actually culminated into something that made peace. Like there wasn't, I didn't see any conflict resolution ever. I don't know if, and so I don't think it happened behind closed doors. I don't think there was any. It just kind of continued to build over time. So yeah, I definitely didn't see conflict resolution. I didn't see much sorries or apologies. That is so important to me for some reason. I just deeply need a sorry and apology. Like I was talking to someone and it was like, it took like a few hours to reply. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I was like doing this thing. And I was like, you just healed me. I was like, honestly, just even like acknowledging the existence of someone else and apologizing is so huge to me. But I saw blow ups. It was like, hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, blow up, freak out, chaos in the home, like just like say everything at once. Like it was like the style that I was sort of taught was to have everything build up so that you had a list of 10 things and you had enough of a case to bring to, you know what I mean? You had enough of a case.
I'm just thinking of us early on in our building of almost 30 where we would have like certain interactions with people. It'd be like kind of one-off contractors and you'd be like, do you have the list of grievance, like things that they've done wrong?
Me? I'm sure.
Like for a call, where it's like, hey, we're gonna have to let these people go. Like, it's smart, but now I'm understanding
100%.
where it's coming
No,
from.
it's the list of grievances. Like I just keep that tally, keep that list. Because that's your ammo, baby. When you want to be perpetual victim, that's your ammo. So I saw that a lot. And then I saw, on the opposite side, my dad just sort of foregoing any of his needs or any of his experience to make peace.
Sure.
So I saw both. I saw the blow up, the unemotional regulation, zero responsibility, sort of cyclone. And then I saw just like, I'll do anything to create peace in the home.
Yeah. I was thinking too about other influences, like all the TV that I watched when I was younger. Like I'm trying to think if there was like actual healthy and obvious conflict resolution in the shows that I was watching. And I'm curious now, because I don't really watch a ton of TV now, but like if that is something that writers are thinking about, just because everyone's on therapy, like everyone's therapizing everything. So I'm like, are they thinking about the influence of that? Maybe not.
So true.
But I think we look to whether it's the TV or the tabloids and we see kind of the fights in the public eye and kind of, it's a little dramatic, but it definitely, I feel like as a teen, I was like into that stuff and it had an influence on me where being with your boyfriend like involves kind of having blowups and fighting and it's normal.
For sure. And It would almost be like a way to reestablish connection for me. Like it would be like affirm me that they
Yeah.
wouldn't go away. Like I think what can happen sometimes too from, an IFS perspective, like a parts theory is that you're in a relationship and you have these parts that almost want to test the connection because they fear or perceive that the connection's going to go away eventually.
Sure.
And so what they'll do is like they'll have the blow up, they'll have the scream, and they'll almost like blow it up so much that they're testing because they believe that this person's going to walk away. So they're like, might as well blow it to make it happen now. They're going to walk away or to see if they will leave because they want that like secure attachment, that affirmation that this person isn't going to leave. So parts is like a huge aspect of fighting. I think that has changed my life to really look at it. So when I think about using parts with fighting, what I do with people that I love or people in relationship is for the most part when they're agitated, aggravated, they have an activated nervous system, they're having a response. It's for the most part, I would say 100%, it is 100% of the time from my perspective, a part. So a part of them has been triggered or activated. A part of them is protecting. A part of them is angry. A part of them is whatever.
Right.
And we're dealing with that part and we're not dealing with that person. So that's why when you fight and when you are having issues and conflict, usually it's a part of you and it's not the actual you. Because the true you is like peaceful, regulated, loving, compassionate, kind, clear, all the things. So when I can see that not as them, but as a part that is terrified and is doing their best to protect them and just needs love, it makes it so much easier. So I can approach it almost like a little kid where I'm like, and this is, I'm saying this this is my perfect scenario. This isn't what happens all the time. But it's like, what do you need? How can I acknowledge the feelings of that part? Because that part has feelings that are big right now that need to be acknowledged. There's no peace or reconciliation from my perspective in fighting unless we acknowledge how someone's feeling first. There's usually a little child active, there's a part active. So acknowledging the feelings of that part, and then you can get to know that part a little bit more because you're not going to make progress until the defensive system of that part is sort of brought down. And then you can get to the truth because what's happening is usually that part's activated and it's protecting an exile or a little child. So the part is like, don't fucking get close to me. Like, I hate you, da-da-da. It's saying all the things, but actually it's protecting the true emotion or the exile that's like, I'm so scared you're going to leave me. This is breaking my heart. Like I am terrified of you dumping me, of you cheating me, all the things. So when they talk about anger as a secondary emotion, I also see it. That's like a parts thing. So it's like anger is usually the front. It's on the battleground. It's like me being really mad or angry is protecting like despair or sadness or grief. So when we unblend ourselves, it can really help with fighting.
How would you like coach someone into feeling the primary emotion? Just so people can kind of walk through that.
Yeah. So first, let me express too, because I just realized, so I expressed what it's like to view other people in their parts, but you're also in your part too. So when I'm coming to someone and I'm pissed, I'm angry, I'm activated, all of the things, let me think about the last time I was like pissed, angry, or activated. It's usually a part of me that is like angry or activated. So it's not my true self too. So in the way that I would be that with others, I need to be that with myself. So it's tending to myself like, okay, what do you need? Like, how are you feeling right now? Usually I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed. This is like activating me. Like I'm feeling jealous. I'm feeling whatever the feelings are. So on the other end, how can we source ourselves internally to support ourselves in like coming down and really, really getting past my own anger to come to my own sadness? So just as we can do that for other people, it's really like first being with the anger, validating the anger is incredibly important. I think validating whatever feeling you're having. So even if I have the worst feeling in the world, I think the meanest thing on earth, I perceive the meanest thing, I have the meanest judgment, it's all okay for me. I never make it bad. I obviously choose other things, but it's like never like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Like, because that just creates less congruency in my field. So being with that first anger emotion, feeling it to its fullness, letting it be okay, allows you to get to the next one. It's like a dream for people to have anger and be like, it's okay. Yeah, I feel that. Like, that's totally valid. Like, that makes so much sense to me. Like, yes. And then going to like, when that person is ready and when you are ready, not rushing it to the next thing.
Right.
And I think what happens is people can rush things now with like the over therapization of things. You can be like, I know that's deep underneath. You're sad about something. And it's like when you're angry, dude, you're like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Literally. Do
Literally
not.
that is like actually my biggest pet peeve. Being in Los Angeles, I love everyone that I'm surrounded with, but oftentimes I see it happening all the time where people are so far in their spiritual path that they'll be like, well, what's the lesson here? What's your thing? And it's like when you are activated and angry, it's actually not helpful to go to the
When you're in
thing.
it. Yep.
It's like, it's actually the most triggering thing. That's like when you tell a woman like, you know, you're mad or,
Yep.
you know, like, I didn't think it was a big deal.
It just takes you out of, because there's
Yes.
purpose in the anger.
Yes.
Like it's not just there. It's there's
Yes.
purpose in the anger. So to take them out of it and be like, no, there's a
Yes.
purpose here.
Yes.
Feels really unsafe.
It's a
like I
different
can't
phase.
talk to you.
No,
I
100%.
don't feel safe talking to you about this.
Same. I had that with a girl one time. I had lunch with this girl and I was activated about something happened with my sister. And I was like saying something. And I was so pissed. She's like, well, babe, you know, you've got to look at it like this. And I was like, zzz.
Yeah.
I literally zipped my whole field up and was like,
Yep.
yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no more talking to you about this.
And I can understand, like, you know, when people get into that type of work themselves, or maybe they're studying it or what have you, or reading all the books. If you have the part of you that really wants to help people and fix things for people, that can be expressed in that way. And I'm totally guilty of that at times where I'm like, how do I say the right thing and fix this for them? How do I make them feel better? I feel like I've gotten a little bit better about like just holding space with very little words. And I think, you know, we underestimate the power of our presence, whether it's in an important conversation or a conflict. So I guess that was an incredible first tip. Just looking at the parts that are being activated. I think for me, it's important to notice my body language and just kind of like, first of all, how I'm feeling in my body. You mentioned that, just kind of checking in, but you know, am I facing the person? Am I totally closed off? Are they sitting down and I'm standing up, or vice versa?
That's a good one.
Are we in different rooms?
Yep.
Are we locking eyes face to face, or, you know, are we in the car driving and looking forward? Just noticing how that could be affecting how you're connecting. I think sometimes for me, like fighting eye to eye is a little confronting.
Yes.
We talked about this and having a clearing conversation. It's always nice to go on a walk. But if we can't go on a walk or movement or in the car and look forward, it's helpful for me to give myself permission, and maybe you even say it to the person, but it's really about giving yourself permission to close your eyes if you need to, breathe, feel into what's actually coming up rather than reacting to what the other person is saying. And also to maybe, I tend to like look up and to the right when I'm thinking sometimes. That throws some people off. They think like, are you lying? What are you doing? Like, what's happening? But I just have to give myself permission to do what feels safest and most grounded in the moment physically.
Totally.
So I just think the body is saying so much in those fight moments. And last thing I'll say about the body, oftentimes it'll give you the message to take a moment. You know, whether the breath is really shallow, high up in your chest, or maybe you're shaking, or maybe you can't catch a deep breath, and that's causing anxiety. Maybe you have a headache. You can totally take a moment or many moments before you come back to this conversation. Wait until you're a bit more in your body, feeling really good.
Yeah, the body is so huge because basically what's happening when you are in conflict is your brain is thinking, like the reptilian brain is thinking that this relationship might go away, that you're unsafe, and that you might lose connection. And for humans, connection and having that connection to tribe or community is like the baseline of why we exist. So it feels like a threat to your existence.
Yes.
So then your body is reacting in the way of higher cortisol, of the activated nervous system. Your pupils might dilate, like you might get sweaty, you might get shaky. I remember shaking for sure at times.
Yes.
And so you need to regulate and be with that body. And it's really hard to have a clear mind if the body is activated. So you kind of have to be in relationship first with the body and breathing and peace. I like tapping is really nice for with the body, but I like thinking about your body language. I think that's huge. And it's like you're supporting the relationship by thinking about your body language, but you're not fully focused on the conversation.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you a little bit of a break.
Yes.
But what I've realized too with the eye contact and people processing, especially speaking more, is like I used to always assume that people processed in the way that I do. And I actually realized that I kind of will like furrow my brow and look at them. I'm like, because I will look like I'm completely blank.
Sure.
Like when I'm really processing something that's like deeply striking me, I actually can't control. I'm like, I look like a bitch. I look like I'm blank. I look like I'm pissed. I look like I'm confused. And I think we oftentimes think that like we prefer for people to process like smiling, nodding, like, oh yeah, that's a great point. But when people are actually processing, they're usually like blank. Like it's usually hitting them so much that their brain is controlling. So just remembering too that like people aren't going to be looking exactly in the way that you want them to or the way that feels the safest to you in your body. They're not going to be smiling and nodding when you're fighting. They're probably going to be blank, furrowed brow, looking, thinking in a way that like for our eyes, for our reticular activating system doesn't feel safe, but like we kind of need to make sure that we're understanding that it's not always our preference of how they look.
And if this is the type of fight, just last thing on body language, that you feel called to touch the other person, what I mean by that is like
I just went eek.
I'm thinking of more a romantic partnership conflict. Depends on where it is on the spectrum of intensity and all of that. But I do think there could be moments, doesn't have to be the beginning, but maybe in the middle or towards the end where, you know, your hand on their leg or you saying like, can I give you a hug? Or like, can we just take a moment? It sounds cheesy.
I know.
But I think what it does for the body is and the brain, it says that like, okay, we're okay. This is not resolved yet, but like we're hopefully in the place now where we can kind of look at the problem rather than each other as the problem.
That co-regulation of the body is so huge.
Yeah, it's obviously specific and like it can't be like a full-blown like, you know, terrible fight and you feel comfortable doing that. But I do think there's opportunity. It's usually an intuitive. It'll come out of the blue where you just feel called to like, you know, put your hand on their shoulder or just, you know,
touch their leg or whatever. I think that, the touch is really good, especially for physical touch people that some people I know hold hands when they fight. It's like holding hands like this or like holding hands on the side or just like touching the entire time. I remember
it's powerful.
In couples therapy, we held hands facing each other, you know, for things, which also can be helpful because there's like a softness that brings when you are touching each other.
100%. I am so excited to share an incredible scientific breakthrough to support your long-term health and wellness. It's called C15. It's the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years. And get this, studies have confirmed that it's 3 times better, broader, and safer than omega-3. I have been on a journey of just making sure that as I age, my health, my skin, internally, externally, I am just healthy as possible. You know, and I learned about cellular fragility syndrome, which can accelerate age-related breakdown and impair metabolic, liver, and heart health. And a lot of us have this because we are lacking the essential fatty acid C15. As many as 1 in 3 people worldwide have low C15 levels. So taking the supplement, 1 tiny little capsule a day, you are getting a really powerful punch. It is pure C15. It works by strengthening our cells, improving our mitochondrial function, and protecting us against damaging free radicals. And the result is better long-term metabolic, liver, and heart health. It is just phenomenal. Like, I'm so grateful to be living at this time on earth where these discoveries are being made and we're able to get access to very pure, simple supplements like this. So the thing with omega-3 fish oil supplements, which I'm sure a lot of you are taking, often they go bad before they even leave the bottle, resulting in supplements that don't improve your health. Fatty 15 naturally protects against damaging oxidation, both in the bottle and in your body. So it works in multiple ways. It repairs age-related damage to cells. It protects them from future breakdown. It boosts mitochondrial function, energy output, and activates pathways in the body that help regulate things like our sleep, our mood, and natural repair mechanisms that support our overall health. So I'm a believer. I love this supplement. I've been taking it for about 4 months now, and I'm just excited to continue. They are on a mission to replenish your C15 levels and restore your long-term health. Thank you, Fatty 15. You're the best. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/almost30 and using the code almost30 at checkout. That's fatty15, fatty15.com/almost30 and use the code almost30 at checkout for 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit. I don't know about you, but at the end of the year, I get so overwhelmed with all of like the holiday logistics, just kind of tying up loose ends that my supplement routine, really taking care of myself on that end, kind of falls to the wayside. But that has changed in the last couple years because I have a way to just make it consistent, easy to do, and that's with Symbiotica's products. Symbiotica is honestly the one thing I can always count on to consistently keep my health in check. And right now, I'm really excited for you. It's the best time for you to try them out because they're having the biggest sale of the year. So I take their easy to take liposomal packets with me everywhere. So I will travel with them. I have them like all organized in my cabinet. It makes taking supplements super quick, convenient, and actually enjoyable because they taste delicious. One of my favorites is the vitamin C. It also has biotin in it. Not only is it great for your immune system, but it's also very beautifying. It's great for your skin. This advanced liposomal delivery ensures that your body can absorb the nutrients much faster and more effectively than other supplements. And we've been working with Symbiotica for years now, and I genuinely trust Symbiotica and their ingredients. So many supplements contain fillers or harmful additives, but Symbiotica's products are made clean and with intention. They don't contain any seed oils, preservatives, toxins, artificial additives, or natural flavors. That's a biggie. My favorites, okay, so I mentioned the vitamin C. I also really love the Shilajit. So this has over 84 minerals that are essential to your body's systems. We are mineral deficient. One reason is because our soils have been depleted of the proper minerals. So we need to supplement. So I love having a cup of Shilajit in the morning. I just mix it with hot water and it's a beautiful ritual. So powerful. Honestly, it has replaced my coffee most mornings. And then third, I really love their magnesium L-threonate. This is a form of magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier, which is just so important. This is great for cognitive function. This is incredible for relaxation, for recovery, and more. So I know you're going to love these. It's an incredible brand. You will find a supplement lineup for you. I highly recommend having it on subscription basis so you never run out. But I'm excited for you to kick off the year with great health and a great routine. So head over to symbiotica.com right now for 25% off plus free shipping site-wide. So major. This will not last forever. symbiotika.com. You'll get 25% off plus free shipping site-wide. Use our code almost30, ALMOST30.
Me as the question asker, asking good questions is huge for how to fight. So that's like what I lead with. If I'm in a conversation with someone, it's more so about asking the questions rather than saying what I need to say. I had a clearing with a friend the other day and she was like saying something and I was like, what is like this? What's your desired solution? Like, what is it that you're wanting from this? Like, where do you want to go? What is it that you want to do? Like, just trying to understand, because then she can walk me through what is it that she's looking for? What's like the issue? Where's like the rub? What's going on? Because I think oftentimes we fill in the blanks with our own stories about what they're saying.
Yes.
So we actually don't know what it is that they're saying, but we're like, oh, they don't want to do this with me. They don't want to hang out with me. They must not like me. They're going to abandon me, all these things. But it's like, no, what actually is going on here? What are you actually saying? What are you actually desiring? What is the outcome that you want? What would make you feel good in this scenario? What would be your suggestion for me moving forward? What type of boundary should we reassess in this situation? Like there's so many different questions that can support you in finding a resolution very quickly. And also it really puts the onus on the other person to be self-responsible for what they're feeling and to be really in touch with what they're feeling. Because if you're asking someone's questions and they don't really know how they're feeling, it's going to be hard to get really clear in any way.
Yes.
You know, there's this psychologist that I really love, and he's like, we need to figure out what to aim for. He's like, what are we aiming for in fights? Like, or when we come back from a fight, like if you say that I'm not around enough, or you say that I'm not giving enough attention, or you feel like I'm not X, Y, and Z, like where is it that you want me to aim? And if you're not clear on that, then I can't really hit it.
Yeah.
So like in conflict, it doesn't have to happen in the first conversation, but it's like having clarity on like what looks like good, better, or best maybe after the scenario, what looks like a true resolution or what looks like a way to prevent it moving forward very clearly so that both parties can agree on what to do.
Yeah, because I guess a lot of the time we're moving from the heightened emotion and we're not actually like tactically clear about what it could look like.
Yes.
And oftentimes I've had the experience with Sean where like I don't know what it looks like, but I know what it feels like.
Yes, totally.
You know, but he wants to know what it looks like so he can do the thing. And I think men especially like want to know what they can do, like tactically, logically to make this situation better. And I'm just like, it's a feeling, bro.
I know.
But it's been a great practice and exercise for me to get clear before having those conversations where it's like, okay, what do I really want?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of times with women though, it's an attunement. It's an emotional, energetic attunement that we desire that we can't really explain, where we know when our man is connected to us or attuned to us. And it's like, I can't really explain it to you, but it just, you feel it.
Totally.
It's hard.
Or if we can identify when we feel a little bit of a break in that attunement.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like if work is really stressful, you know, and their mind is like all there and it's like, you know, there's life outside of that.
Love that.
Okay. We mentioned the you statements and the bad fighting, but really using I statements. And I think, you know, leading with questions is incredibly powerful and leading with I statements. So like, you know, I've been feeling just really sad that we haven't connected in the way that I feel like we used to. I feel like I am, you know, seeking a lot more attention from you and it doesn't feel like myself. Like it doesn't feel like a give and take, like a really reciprocal situation right now. And just really owning your experience, like not pointing fingers, not saying, you know, you did this and you made me feel this way. So yeah, it's simple. We've heard it before, but I think it bears repeating because it can be very easy to just start a fight with blaming.
Yeah. I will flip it in my head. I'm like, okay, how can I take, what is it that I'm feeling? It's always like, you just kind of do that practice. And so to like, how am I feeling?
Yeah.
How am I? I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling whatever. And then my mind will go, they were doing this, they were doing that. And it's like, okay, I was feeling like this because I perceived that, you know what I mean? It's like, you have to do like a dance in your head to really recreate the scenarios in a way where you're taking full responsibility or where you're seeing it from a perspective that you can share with someone rather than them. So it honestly is like a mindset practice of doing that. And I think when you're saying, I'm feeling disconnected because I feel like we normally connect in this way, and you're kind of explaining that, it also invites the other person in to help you. When you're saying, I'm feeling this way because of this, it's like, oh, how could I help that person? But if you're saying you are doing this, you are doing that, then it's like defensive already, and you're really not going to get anywhere. And I think that was probably, the victim thing was huge. I think that was the second biggest thing that I did in fighting in many years ago. I'm so much better now, but it's like the you thing. the you thing. And I don't think many of us learned the skills of the I for a long time. And oftentimes the you thing is projection.
Yeah.
You're projecting. You're like, you're being this, you're being that, and you're actually just projecting. So that's why it's even more powerful when you can be in the I, because then you can check on your projections.
And it just feels like a safer conversation.
Yeah.
Because you know that the other person is taking responsibility for their own experience. You're taking responsibility for your own experience. And it's like a cleaner interaction.
Yeah.
I think psychically I get very overwhelmed if it's like blame, you did this, because then I'm thinking about that. Did I do that? Fuck, did I? I don't, like I made them feel I didn't have any awareness, but I also want to share how I feel. It's chaotic.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I also want them to know they did this. You're already
Tit for
in
tat
that. Yes.
starts. Yeah.
And when someone says
Not
you
fun.
did something, I have to run it through my filter where I'm like, did I do that? Okay, I'm going to take responsibility for that. But then you always want to find something.
Yeah. What do you feel? I feel like this has been a topic at one point or another around like, okay, taking responsibility for something you did, but not having awareness that it had that effect. And obviously, intention is different.
Yeah, that's a hard one because, I had a situation with a friend and she was like, and it's funny because she said this, she's like, I misunderstood the impact that it would have. And it was actually something I had done previously. And I was like, I misunderstood the impact it would have. And I said that. And then she said it to me in this scenario. And I was like, oh, I don't like that statement. Because I actually don't feel like that's taking responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I said it first. So it was my fault because I said it first. But then she said it back in another scenario. And I was like, oh, I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost just like, no, I'm so sorry.
It's the intention and impact thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's first and foremost owning.
Yeah.
But I also think like sharing kind of your feeling and kind of like thought process behind it, if there was a thought process, is helpful to get to know someone.
It's a good one.
I don't want to like not take responsibility in explaining it, but maybe that's my part, the part of me that like feels misunderstood and wants to be understood.
Of course.
Where you're like, I just want to explain why I did that.
Oh, I would want to know.
I wasn't hurting. I didn't mean to hurt you.
Yeah, I would want to know too, though.
And
someone you're in a relationship with should want to know why you.
Yes.
They should like help me understand what you were thinking.
But I think like with the intention and impact thing, it's like it's so nuanced of how it's done.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You can't start with that. You have to start with owning it.
Yes. Yes. I think it's always just, and that's when you do meditation and you do ego work, you actually don't care. You can own anything.
Yeah.
The meme I posted the other day was Keanu Reeves, and he was saying, I'm at the point now where if someone says 1.1 or 1 + 1 = 5, I'm like, yep, you're right. Have fun. And it's just like, okay, like, when you have no ego, you can take responsibility for, I'm like, wow, I'm so sorry that hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not my intention, and obviously being truthful. I think a big thing that people talk about, Jay Shetty talks about this too, is really focusing on the resolution and having it be a win for both people. Having each win be compromise. And they talk a lot about this in negotiation strategies. This was in like the negotiation masterclass, talking about how real conflict resolution or real real negotiation is compromise on both parties. You're going to give something up. I'm going to give something up. So we both feel like we win.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you both apologize. You both recognize what you could have done better. You both like see an opportunity for growth and really making it something where it's super safe for you to admit fault, for you to honor the other person, and really just having it be the focus on you both winning and compromise rather than one of you winning.
Yeah. Because compromise, like I feel like people think about compromise and they're like, oof, that doesn't feel good, or I'm going to lose.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like there's an energy to compromise. Like maybe it's like old programming around compromising in a marriage or relationships. And they're like feeling a type of way about it, but it feels really good to compromise. I can't describe it. It feels like a gift to the other person and you're still getting part of what you need too.
Yes.
And like the give and receive feels good.
Yes. I think I'm just laughing because I think sometimes in previous relationships, it was like, this is just my trauma. It was like, you'd be like, okay, let's compromise. And then it would be a fight about the compromise.
Tell me more.
And then it would be like, well, that's not enough of a compromise for you. Or that's a compromise for you, but it's not compromise for me. And then you go into the rabbit hole of the compromise. beef.
totally.
You know what I mean? I just realized like, okay, let's compromise. And it's like, well, that's not, and it's just like, it was like chasing
Yes.
a thing. But when you're in like a
Yes.
normal regulated, you need to recognize that you both want to win.
Yeah, 100%. I think being vulnerable is really important in fighting, especially if you feel comfortable and close with this person. I think being vulnerable just, for me, takes the temperature down a little bit, where we actually settle into what this really is about.
Totally.
So if you're able to take time before this conversation, or even take, a few moments away and just really feel into like what's coming up, and also maybe what this comes from. Like it could be you projecting onto how your dad was with you when you were young, and you're projecting it onto your husband, and being able to say that out loud. You know what I realized? That, you working 24/7 makes me think about my dad and how he was never around. And I'm just like overwhelmed by the thought, because it did affect me when I was younger. And then they're hearing that.
Yes.
And they might have a million things they want to say, but I think just the understanding of like the deeper wound, the deeper truth coming up is super, super important. Then it gives them permission to share maybe why they're working 24/7.
Yeah.
I have a fear of, or I was brought up to be the provider. I came from nothing. Like, working is my identity, whatever it is.
Yeah. I think that one's huge. It's like going first with vulnerability, I think is really big. And when you're safe enough in your own system and with yourself, it's okay to be vulnerable, and like, you're like, I'm going to still love myself even if I'm vulnerable and it doesn't work out in the way that I want. Because I can remember in certain relationships in the past, just like that vulnerability was unsafe, and it just made it so hard to fight, because you're like, I'm not able to be truthful because it's going to be weaponized or used against you. And it just makes all types of disagreements so hard. But the vulnerability is really, really huge. So going first with that, going first with the say sorry, I think is also huge too, of acknowledging what you did and apologizing. It's honestly not that big of a deal, and it can really support things. I think the last thing for me is giving yourself like a beat in a moment. Like having the trigger happen, having the activation happen, and then having 5 minutes, having 10 minutes, having a few minutes, whatever it is, and respecting your person that you're with, whether friend, business partner, family, romantic, and giving them space too, to like work through a trigger. Because I think oftentimes previously it was like, especially when you're codependent or an empath, you're like, you want everything to be okay so bad that you can't handle that moment of time in between when someone's activated, and you want to know what's wrong, and you want to fix it, and you want to make peace, and you want to do all these things because you're actually uncomfortable. But it's like, how can you sit with yourself and respect people to like go through their own process, that it's going to be okay. You're going to talk to them, and really allowing each other just a moment, allowing yourself a moment, allowing others a moment.
On that point, I think it's also important. I remember we would do this years ago when we would have our moments where we would set a time or day, like when we would come back together.
Yeah, you and me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was helpful for my brain.
Same.
Because I'm like, then I'm not wondering when it's going to happen.
Totally.
Who's going to bring it up?
Yes.
Where are we going to be? What's, all the questions that you have. So saying, hey, over dinner tonight, can we connect on what happened this morning?
Love it. You know what's so funny is thinking about, I'm like, why does that work for us though? Because for a lot of people, they hear that and they're very triggered by that.
And they're like anxious all day.
Yes. And then they're anxious and thinking about it all day.
For sure.
I think it's different brains, but I also think we had created enough safety and security in our relationship to allow us to know that we could do that and it was going to be okay. That, because I think that activation is fear of abandonment, fear of being left, fear of you've done something wrong. I think so we had sourced ourselves enough to know that no matter what happens, I'm okay. And then also to like be okay, knowing that like it's okay in between because the time is set. So it might be a preference thing, but I definitely think a goal is to like have a time to set to talk about it when you're more regulated, when you're more at peace. But I do understand for most people that's really hard for them and they can't really wait.
Right.
But also, last thing, the reason why they can't wait is the same reason why they should wait. So the reason why you can't wait is because you're now activated. You now have a part of you that's afraid of abandonment, that's got your nervous system activated, that your cortisol spiking. So that same gripping fear, anxiousness is why you should wait. So being able to be with yourself through that entirety of that emotional expression of your anxiousness will support you in coming together better.
Yeah. My emotional authority means I should not be fighting in the moment. I should
Really?
take time. Well, because it's always a wave, but waiting until you feel a little bit more neutral.
For sure. I don't know. I forget what mine is, but I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because I'm very chill, but when I'm not chill, I'm not chill.
Yeah. Also, if you set a date and time, maybe you have a therapy session in between. And
Exactly. 100%. Practice. 100%.
Honestly.
That's what help me too, is I could practice. I could be like, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say it like that. You know what I mean? You can kind of like walk through, because when you're practicing in your mind or in the car or with your therapist or even with another friend, you also are like getting reps in. That's the whole thing with this. The last tip is that just remember that these are all reps.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfect. You're not looking to come into the fight to say the perfect thing. They're going to say the perfect thing. You'll come to conflict resolution, a rainbow appears, and everything is fine. It's to be able to get reps in with practice.
Yep.
Like I had a situation a few months ago and I just didn't really do a good job. Like I just was kind of like activated. I wasn't mean or rude or anything, but I just didn't do my best.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that was like a bad rep. You know, like I'm gonna have more opportunities in my life with people that I love to like have better reps. So it's not trying to be perfect, but it's trying to do better every single time to create more intimacy and more humanity.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a healthy part of relationship.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is key. Most people don't feel safe in their relationships because they're avoiding the conflict the whole time. And so you're not actually being yourself. You're not actually being truthful. And most people can't ride through conflict because they actually that's true intimacy, is being able to work through that and still love that person or still be with them. So it's the instrumental part, I think, for me, of working through relationships.
And if you can fight well in your relationships, you know that those relationships are solid. And if you are in a relationship where the fighting, is characterized by some of the things that we shared earlier. Toxic. But it's just, you can reevaluate that relationship because life's gonna life, baby.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be challenges.
Yes.
There's gonna be conflict. And so how do you navigate that? How resilient is your relationship?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. All right, guys, if you want more of this type of episode, you can listen to our episode on clearing conversations. That's really good. So that's how to have a hard conversation. This was like tips on fighting. This is how to have a hard conversation, a clearing conversation with friends and romantic partners. And then we have over 700 other episodes of Almost 30. So you can just do like Almost 30 roulette, like you said the other day, find some of the best of the best. We have Morning Microdose, which is our clips channel. All episodes are between 5 and 10 minutes, ad-free. They're so good. And then you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Almost 30 Podcast, Almost 30 Podcast on YouTube, and I'm on Instagram at It's Krista.
And I'm at Lindsey Simsick. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.
We love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Great job, Lindsey and Krista. Another good one. Again, send this one to a friend. This is like how you guys can learn together to be better at communication and intimacy and connection. It's just so powerful. Thank you so much for being a part of our lives and community. Thank you for making Morning Microdose so successful and listening to the daily dose of inspiration every single day. It's such a free, inspiring way to motivate you. I love Morning Microdose so much. Also, subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show just means so much on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If this was helpful for you, it means the world. And then almost30.com. We got some new things coming up. We have the Saturn return calculator for you. We have the book coming out. Just stay tuned.
We love you. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
We love you. Bye, guys.